Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, preview what we can, also chat about news in the industry, and then of course stream for fun. Today we're going to be looking at gaming news. This is going to be July 1st through the 8th. So thank you again, guys, for voting. Yeah, I had some time to allow people to vote, and most of you voted to have it once a week. So here we go. This is going to be the new schedule, and so you can expect this on either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday every week. And it's going to vary a little bit between Friday through Sunday due to work schedule and family and some other responsibilities, but I will be doing it Friday through Saturday or Sunday. And if I can't, I'll be posting that on the community page just to let you guys know. So be sure to watch out for that. Let me check my audio here just to make sure this is doing okay. Perfect, sounds wonderful. Let's go ahead and get into it. So if you guys have been here for the gaming news, usually these are all pretty long, 48 minutes to an hour and 10, somewhere in there. And now that this is just once a week, it is less information, but I still want it to be worth something. I still want it to have some depth to it. And so this still isn't quite as short as I'm hoping, but anyway, boy, let's get into it. There's some good and bad news here. So first up is Baldur's Gate 3. So for PC, it has been moved up for a month. It's going to be now releasing on August 3rd, again on PC. And this will be pretty much a month and 3 days before Starfield. So the publisher made an indication that they're wanting to have some time where Baldur's Gate 3 isn't really going to have any competition. It sucks. This game has also been, in early access since like 2020 or 2021, which early access kind of seems cheap. A way to do like quality testing or to get data on their servers. You really don't need too much. But yeah, some games this kind of seems. Hold on, folks. What in the world was that? That was pretty loud. Well, everything seems okay. So anyway, yeah, I'm not sure what that was. So back to it. Let me make sure my audio's doing okay. Alright, sounds good. Let's keep on going. So yeah, again, early access kind of seems to be like a newer game. Or a newer way for studios to kind of get some information or kind of do cheap testing. And just for it to be that long, I mean, I wish they wouldn't even put it out. It's kind of trashy. It's kind of garbage. Sometimes you can get deals, but then again, you don't really know how good the final product is going to be, so it is still kind of a risk. But yeah, it is going to release now a month early on PC. Unfortunately for PlayStation 5 folks, you're still going to get it released on September 6th, the same day as Starfield. So, good luck. If you got to choose between the two. Actually, you PlayStation 5 folks won't, so never mind. You guys won't have access to Starfield, unfortunately. So yeah, enjoy Baldur's Gate 3. Next is going to be the Dutch government is actually taking a look at, again, trying to ban loot boxes from all games, mobile and any other platform, which is wonderful. I really hate loot boxes because they're a really cheap way for companies to try to make money without really providing anything. And it's a lot like gambling. Okay, it's like playing roulette or blackjack or slots. Like, you really don't know what you're getting. And, as an adult, if that's how you want to spend your money, fine. But these loot boxes are also, and even like Grand Theft Auto 5 with the Diamond Casino, they're kind of showing early behaviors of gambling to children, and I don't think that's okay, because it is very addictive. Okay, it's like giving kids cigarettes or the ability to buy alcohol or some other drug, right? And you don't really want them to get hooked on this type of stuff, because they're more likely to stay hooked for life, and that is more likely to degrade their quality of life, and we don't want that for our kids. So the Dutch government is actually looking to completely ban loot boxes. This time what they're looking to do is to actually change the law where it would allow them to regulate to ensure, like how microtransactions happen in a game, or how transactions happen, period, inside a gaming space, not just buying the game, but actually transactions in the game itself after it's already been bought or downloaded. So this would be looking at every single game. And I would love other countries to really look into this, because this was a really big deal when DICE made Star Wars Battlefront 2 remake. Is that it was just so plagued with the loot box system. It was so frustrating, and the card system and everything. I mean, you just couldn't unlock equipment and just run and gun and use it like you could in the older ones, which sucked, or the different classes. But things now had to kind of be put behind a random numbers generator, an RNG wall, which sucked. And again, you could earn loot boxes for fun or whatever, but the probability of actually getting anything good, you might as well spend money. And ever since, like, it's just become way worse. I mean, if you look at Diablo Immortal, oh my word, I mean, you can literally spend tens of thousands of dollars and still basically get nothing of really what you're trying to get, which is horrible. And I don't want this to become the norm, okay? I want gaming companies to actually create real content, to create enjoyment, and not focus so much on the grind, not focus so much on microtransactions, on trying to suck the living juice and money out of every single player that they can get their hands on. It's kind of like a dirty salesman at a car lot, or some type of show, or some timeshare meeting. Like, it's just not fun. It's just not fun. So I'm glad the Dutch government is actually looking into that again. During the courts, we know Microsoft is still trying to buy Activision Blizzard. They got to go through multiple courts. There's still the CMA that is blocking them from this deal, and also right now going through the courts in the United States. And so during some of this, the Microsoft CEO said that he would like to actually see exclusives go away. He thinks it kind of hinders the industry. The CEO of Microsoft doesn't necessarily enjoy the aspect of exclusives. We've seen too from Phil Spencer in some of the interviews that he did after Redfall. Such a disaster. Is that they're not really focused on exclusives. They want to provide service like Game Pass and cloud gaming and that kind of thing. And so they're really focusing on the service side that they can bring through their platform. And all they're doing is they're just using their game console as a medium to bring that to you. And I really do think that this is actually going to become the future as things become more digital, as physical becomes less relevant, is that we're just going to see this push to actually provide a service of a library of games to the individual. So we already see this with movies. It's become pretty tough for theaters to actually compete. And just about everything now gets bought up by either Amazon TV, Apple TV, Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO, MGM, you name it. I mean, there's so much crap out there, it's unreal. I can't even keep track of it. If you actually bought it all, it'd be like $300 a month. It's insane. And I eventually, unfortunately, think that's coming to games. What I do like is, like, with the movie space, you can still go and buy the individual movie, the physical copy, but you get all of the data on that disc for the whole movie, right? The problem with games today is that a lot of the games are starting to get to a point where you can't fit all of the data on the game disc, and so you have to have a, quote, update in order to get the rest of the game. And some of it is so cheesy where even some of the games like Modern Warfare 2 or like Gollum only have a few dozen megabytes out of gigs of data. And so it's like there's not even really an attempt there to try to fit it all on one disc, while we have some others like Tales of Arise or like Elden Ring, where the whole game is actually on the disc. And that's really, really nice. And so I agree. I would like to see exclusives go away. I would like to see companies make as much money as they possibly can with creating a good product. And if the game is good and people enjoy it, they're going to buy the game and the game is going to sell itself. I would like to see the focus. And I would like Sony, too, to stop splashing money around and denying exclusives to PC and to Xbox. And I think that's kind of a bummer. I would like to see Nintendo, too, actually be somewhat graphically competitive with their hardware for their next consoles. A lot of the time, they can't have games come to their console, or it's got to take, months or even like a year or two to port the game over because the hardware can't actually run the game in the state it was designed for. So they got to dumb everything down and actually try to make it work. And I'm sure that's getting annoying too. So it's great they have their own exclusives, which is wonderful. Nintendo still outsells everybody else combined pretty much every year, just like with the Switch versus the PlayStation 5 and Series X. But I'm honestly never going to buy one, probably because the games that I actually really, really want to play, the majority of them are on true next-gen, quote-unquote, consoles. And I'm not really interested in playing, the 25th iteration of Mario. I'm just not. I got a Wii U, which I'm totally happy with. I got some old games. Legend of Zelda's and Mario Party and Mario Kart and all that. And, I mean, they work great for what they are, and they're great party games. And, it was a heck of a lot cheaper doing it that way than trying to keep up with the Nintendo console. I'd rather have a Series X or PlayStation and do it that way. But yeah, I truly would love to see exclusives go away and be able to have devs just, make it as much as they could. Honestly, if I had my own, I'd be like, no, keep your money. We're going to release it for both consoles and for PC. That's the plan. But yeah, the timed exclusives are completely banning on top of it, Oh well, it is what it is. And if that's what your competitor's doing, Microsoft says they just have to play the game with Sony. And when Sony is willing to get rid of exclusives, they probably will too. So, is that ever going to happen though? Probably not. Which sucks. Let's see. Elder Scrolls 6. We are pretty much perfectly sure, again, with the courts, Elder Scrolls 6 is projected to release in 2026. Now, I still think that 2026 is when either Sony or Xbox are going to release their next-gen console. And I think Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be hopefully not an exclusive, just like Oblivion. Well, I think Oblivion was exclusive, but Skyrim was for both. And I think Elder Scrolls 6 would be great if that could actually be for both as well. But we know that Sony has said around 26, 28 is kind of when they're planning to release their next console. And Microsoft knows that too, and so they're really not going to be far off of that time frame either. So we can expect in the next few years, basically probably 3 years from now, at the earliest, probably getting next-gen consoles. And that's when Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be, and that'll probably be a launch game. That's my guess. Or at least that's maybe what they're shooting for. Let's see, next, Ubisoft has announced a new game called Champions Tactics. This is going to be created on a new blockchain, and thank goodness it's only going to be for PC. So PC folks, please do not buy this. Please do not encourage and support the games that are just trying to nano-transaction your money out of you and thinking that the NFT that you have is actually worth something. It's a joke, folks. It's already been shown that the image that you buy, quote-unquote, doesn't actually belong to you. All these NFTs are related to these, quote, assets is just that you buy a receipt that you bought something. It's not actual ownership, which is hilarious. We also saw this too with cryptos. It's just like people technically bought cryptos, but they bought a derivative of the crypto, and the crypto itself, the token, really belongs to the company, the exchange that you bought it from, and you don't actually own anything. And that's why most of these are freaking worthless. And so, yeah, please, people, this space, it needs to be regulated or something, or it just needs to be completely gotten rid of. Again, they can't even really share why, everything needs to be on blockchain. In my opinion, except for Xbox so far. Xbox's Game Pass is completely built on a blockchain. And so if you have Game Pass and you're streaming a game, you're blockchaining. Everything's actually built on something like that. And so that actually has use, that is actually able to provide a service. And I support something like that because they're actually trying to create a quality product to sell you. NFTs, they're just a joke. And so Ubisoft is abandoning their quartz like they tried with Wildlands Breakpoint, and now they're trying this new one, and with Champions Tactics, which is a PvP game on PC, and good luck to them. Another failure right there, guarantee it. Now, also something that was interesting was the French riots. So if you don't know, there's been riots happening for the last several years in France, and they've been all over different types of stuff. But the president just came out and said that he blames TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and video games. He blames the social media for allowing them to communicate and assemble, basically, and spread disinformation around, and then also is blaming video games for allowing people to have the idea to rebel. Let's see. 1789, I want to say, France rebelled without video games or Snapchat or anything else. So rebellions and revolutions are not new to France, and these new mediums and forms of entertainment are not the cause of any of that, of course. Video games, I know they've been blamed for a lot of stuff for a long time. But it's only recently people have actually been looking at the benefits of video games. And I agree, yeah, it can absolutely be addicting, but anything can be addicting. Anything. And so these are just different things that you can worship, that you can consume too much of, and that steals your time, sleep, and money, and your opportunity for relationships and friendships and stuff. And but they can also be wonderful too. And so yeah, the French president, good grief, he's just grasping at straws now, and people are rioting because they hate his policies. It's as simple as that. And he needs to freaking stop being a libtard, and he needs to actually care about the people that he's running. Seriously. He's had some pretty progressive policies that have really screwed some people over from COVID all the way to today. And yeah, it's horrible. If you're curious, you can go look some of that up. Let's see. Some more. Ubisoft, man. They need help. Ubisoft is also pulling, well, here's the good news. Ubisoft is making Black Flag Remake. That's wonderful. I think it'd be great. Black Flag was probably absolutely one of my top favorites out of the entire franchise, and I really enjoyed it. Give me a ship, some guns, and boom, away, man. I'm going to be blowing up everything I can and just having a good time doing that and not even bother with playing the game. I don't even think I finished it. I just blew up ships. It was a blast. Loved it. And we know Skull and Bones is basically taking, well, and so did Vanguard, is basically taking kind of the Black Flag blueprint and expanding on it in a different part of the world and calling it a different else, Skull and Bones. The problem is Ubisoft is pulling devs from Skull and Bones to actually work on the Black Flag remake. Now, Skull and Bones has had 7 different launch dates, and it's been delayed 6 times. And they also took government funding from the Portuguese government to make this game. And so they have to put it out. It's not like they get to cancel it because they're under contract from an international body. And, you don't get to screw over a country as a company and get away with it. So they do actually have to release this game, though I do kind of wonder if they will just eternally put it in limbo, kind of like Between Good and Evil 2. I think I'm saying that right. But yeah, that game's been in limbo for like 15 years. Which is, longest running ever. And I don't think it's ever coming out, but technically it's not canceled. So we'll have to see with that. So, yeah. Yay, Black Flag remake. Again, I don't really think the remake is going to be worth it. I hope they don't screw with it too much. I hope it really is just a remake like Dead Space was. They'll improve some things, they'll fix some things, they'll retexture everything. That would be great. Again, I don't think it's going to be worth the full cost, and I think Ubisoft is doing this just to get some extra money in their pocket. And since COVID, we have seen a ton of freaking attempts at remakes and just getting money into the coffers because they had trouble actually making new games. A lot of games have had to been delayed, and they're still being delayed, even ones that technically shouldn't be because they've had so long. But yeah, COVID and lockdowns and people retiring and all that stuff, it's really messed stuff up. And so this is going to take some time to work through all of those bugs. So again, they're just pulling another remake just to get some more cash. But yeah, this really doesn't look good for Skull and Bones because it already looks horrible. Okay, you know, the news hasn't been good, and now they're even pulling devs from the studio that's working on it. And it's not like this is a huge studio either. So it's like, okay, how many are they really pulling from this Portuguese studio? I don't know. Hopefully not very many. And this may not bode well either for Black Flag Remake. I don't know. We'll have to see, folks. In other news, Daedalic will no longer be making games. They will still be publishing in the future, but the next Lord of the Rings games that they had on the table, it's been canceled. They've also fired 25 employees, which, were they all devs if they're not going to make games anymore? I don't know. We don't have that information. We do know that it was about 25% of their workforce in the company. The next game they were going to make that was canceled was called Magic, codename Magic, and it was going to be funded by the German Ministry of Affairs and Climate Action. That's actually a governing body in Germany. And this game was going to be funded by taxpayer dollars. And we found out, too, that at least in some way, so was Gollum. It's like, you're actually getting funding from taxes of a government to make a game? And again, this is just like Ubisoft with Skull and Bones getting government money from Portugal to make this game. And it's like, man, devs need to stop doing this. Publishers, whoever, they need to quit doing this. If they can't fund a project privately, they should not get funding publicly from a government. Okay, that money should be better utilized for the country, for the citizens, for the infrastructure and energy and water and agriculture. It shouldn't be freaking used to make a video game. I'm sorry. Like, under no circumstances would I be okay as a taxpayer finding out that the U.S. government funded the next Ubisoft project or some project from an indie company. Like, no thanks. No freaking thanks. So if you're curious, you can also look this up on the German Military of Affairs and Climate Change website. And I kind of wonder if you know, Daedalic has been a part of some other projects, and this is the first real big project that they've done, Gollum, and the game that was canceled, codename Magic. But, I mean, was the plan all along by some heads of the company to just fraud the German government? Is that what Ubisoft is doing? Because, again, you're taking taxpayer dollars to fund a video game. That doesn't really make a lot of sense. If it was an infrastructure project, yeah, that would make sense. But this is a freaking video game, folks. It's not going to help Germany in any way, shape, or form. That is ridiculous. And then, Skull and Bones has been a joke. And Gollum is the worst rated game so far this year. Worst game of the year. It even beat Redfall, which is pretty incredible. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments. Next is... oh yeah. This is kind of a big one. So Final Fantasy 16. So far it's done really good. It's got a solid 8 out of 10. It's been doing a great job. But the problem is that it's been crashing at a certain place in the game during a certain cutscene and boss fight. And what happens is that people are playing, they hear the fans kick on, and then pretty soon after, they get a notification. The game kind of freezes or stutters real bad, and they get a notification on the screen from their console saying that it's overheating and that it has to shut down. Or it just completely shuts down to begin with. So this isn't necessarily extremely widespread, but it is enough that it's starting to show on Reddit. People are starting to talk about it, and they're also starting to show their own experiences. And this is also starting to show up on YouTube a little bit, and probably some other media like Instagram or TikTok or whatever else is out there. And yeah, this is kind of starting to become a problem, because if you overheat your console, well, you're damaging it. So you don't really want to do that very much. We all remember the red rings of death with Xbox, and yeah, that was not good. And so again, not everyone is having this problem, which is interesting. And so I really kind of got to thinking about this, and I was like, okay, if it was the game itself, everybody would have this problem, 100%, and we'd know about it earlier than we do now. Everybody would be having this problem. The next thing is, okay, since it's probably not the game, well, then it's got to be something up with the console, and even the console is telling you, hey, there's a heating problem. And so I kind of was racking my brain a little bit, because I kind of live for this stuff, folks. I just enjoy video games. It's the last big hobby that I have. And I remember watching a video. You can still find this. There's probably multiple channels that have done this. But I remember watching a video where someone had an original first model PlayStation 5, and they had the new PlayStation 5 model. And they took them both apart, and they basically tore open the guts and took a look at what was different, if anything, and or configurations or anything like that. They just wanted to see what was inside and see what was different, if anything. And so, sure enough, the biggest change was that they changed the heatsink by making it smaller. Oops. Now, technically, this was okay, and they could get away with it, and the reason they did this was to save money, because heat sinks and thermal paste isn't expensive necessarily, but heat sinks are actually pretty expensive. And the whole idea of a heat sink, if you don't know, is to draw heat from the chips, like the CPU and GPU, is to draw heat from those chips as they're working and processing, and venting the heat somewhere else so that it can protect the chip. Otherwise, you melt it down, and that's horrible. Like when your thermal paste fails, bye-bye freaking microchip. You know, good luck paying for that fix. You might as well just get a new console or a graphics card or laptop or whatever, because yeah, that's gone. And so this really kind of got me thinking. I was like, okay, well, let's take a look. Let's see if I can find anything on this. So I looked on our best reliable source ever, Wikipedia, right? And I started taking a look at this, and so I'm going to read this verbatim. Let's see. Sony began shipping a minor hardware revision of the PlayStation 5 in August of 2021. The new design reduced the size and weight of the heatsink, reducing the net system weight by 300 grams or 0.66 pounds. That's pretty substantial. And taking a look at the video that I was watching of where they tore both models apart and showed the heatsinks, it was definitely smaller, considerably different. And during the video, they also tested the heat with like thermal imaging cameras. They turned on the consoles the same amount of time, let them run for a while, and then checked the heat. And there were there was like 5, 6, 7 degree difference. It was actually pretty considerable, and that really kind of starts to add up over time. And of course, if you're gonna really push the chip or push the processing power, well, you're gonna have a greater difference in heat if you have one better heat sink over another. And so that can really add up. And absolutely, Final Fantasy 16, we can tell that it was really pushing the console during that section enough to make them all over, a lot of them overheat, to where this is starting to make like its rounds on YouTube news. And so let me keep reading here. This first revision did not have a noticeable. So it did have an effect, but it wasn't a noticeable effect. So they kept it. The testing was done by Digital Foundry and Gamers Nexus. Next, in August 2022, so exactly a year later, Sony began shipping another hardware revision of both the base and digital versions of the PS5, which used a die shrink of the original SoC. So if you don't know what a die shrink is, it basically it allows for a smaller wafer to be used to create the chip, and every node can still be on there. So you still have the exact same processing power, you have the same threads and layout and all that stuff, except it's just on a smaller scale. And if you have a smaller computer chip, that's really good because you actually draw less power. And if you draw less power, you actually create less heat. So what did they do? They shrunk and redesigned the heatsink again. And again, this contributed to a weight decrease. So, let's see. So now they've worked the digital edition down to 3.4 kilograms instead of 3.9 for launch. And the base version now weighs 3.9 kilograms compared to 4.5. So they don't give us the exact change in grams or exactly how much was altered there in weight, but they do give us comparisons, so you can do the math. But still, that's pretty significant. And heat sinks, they are pretty heavy. They are a bulkier and more expensive component. But man, 2 revisions to shrink the heat sink? I didn't know about the second one in 2022. But in my opinion, that's not good. And in my opinion, that's the problem. The heatsink is too freaking small, and when devs get a game or get a dev kit for a new console, they get the specs for the launch, right? They get the launch specs. And usually components aren't downgraded on a console, they're usually improved. Or maybe parts are removed, like the disk drive. But you don't usually downgrade the heatsink. That's a big no-no in my opinion. Like I would never want to do that in fear of some dev wanting to really push to the max as much as they could, and then it's like, oh frick, we don't have enough cooling capability, and now we're possibly gonna put our chips at risk, and then the customer is gonna have their chip fry, and they're gonna be pissed. And it sounds like actually that's what's happening right now. So the only way this can really be fixed is for the devs, Square Enix, to be able to graphically downgrade the graphical quality during that scene and during the boss fight to ensure that the console doesn't get too hot. And they could do that with a patch, probably, but that kind of sucks. Like, you actually have to downgrade your game in order to get it to run on the console so that this problem doesn't happen. And Sony can't fix this because, well, fixing the hardware is a heck of a lot harder and more difficult and time consuming and costly too than just making a software patch for the game. So that's what's going to have to happen. As far as I know, nobody has figured this out yet. So I'm the first dude. And hey, if you think that deserves a like and a follow, please and thank you. But yeah, that really sucks. So be sure to share that with people, folks. But yeah, never have I heard of a game like Final Fantasy 16 not being able to play because the console company, Sony, decided to shrink the heatsink twice. And now that seems to be biting them in the can. And again, folks, the only way to fix this is just to create a software update to downgrade the graphical quality of that scene and boss fight in the game. So, that kind of sucks. Let's see, what else? We're almost done here. Next was... oh, yeah. So we have some DLCs to talk about. And I'll probably do this a little more often now that I got a little bit more time or space, now that I'm going to be doing news every week. Again, I didn't always share everything. I'm still not sharing everything. But we do get DLCs. And I got to talk about the Saints Row DLC number 2. So, basically the premise of the game is that you're going to be dropped into an area to be able to kind of look for these boxes. 4 of them, which are like, content. You're able to get something that will tell you kind of like an upgrade that's going to happen to enemies, and then you fight a horde of enemies, and then you're done, and then you move on to the next box. And there's 4 of these boxes. And when you get these 4 boxes, you finish the mission, and then you can do the next mission. There's also 4 other weapon crates that you can also get in each mission. So there's a total of 8 crates. But again, it's all horde mode related. The thing that is frustrating is that there's, I think I heard this right. The guy had a different accent, so I was having a tough time. But hey, if you honestly want to check out his channel, he's got a pretty honest one about what he thinks about games and updates and stuff. And I really enjoyed it. It's called Born Number 2 Game. So Born 2 Game. And I really actually enjoy his content with just how honest he is. So go ahead and check him out. So yeah, you get these crates. Once you get them all, congratulations, it's over. And you basically just fight hordes of zombies. There's 32 missions of this horde mode. Again, there's 4 boxes each time. The game actually tells you on your mini-map where all of these boxes are. So it's not like you really have to hunt for them, so there's no challenge there. You also get 4 different characters, and each character has different abilities and stuff, and they give you quite a bit of ammo. One of them in particular, you actually get infinite ammo for your gun, and you start with 80 rounds in the magazine. And then you can still get an upgrade a little later to be able to get 120 rounds in the magazine with infinite reserve ammo. There's also weapon upgrades you can get. If you level up other characters, everybody is able to get another, bar of health. So you start with 3, you can get all the way up to 6 bars of health. And you can just absolutely spray and pray and totally farm XP around these weapon crates because the enemies keep spawning. So you can just infinitely get XP, and each character can only go to level 8. At that point, they max out, and then you move on to the next character, and so basically you have, what's the math on that? 32 levels for 32 missions between all 4 characters total. And, he's just saying it just was not challenging whatsoever. And this game, too, it's like $10 for the DLC by itself. He was saying, too, also the DLC launched late, and that it didn't even show up on the storefront to actually buy individually. You had to have the pass, which he did have, in order to actually download it. And when he made the video earlier today, or yesterday, he was still saying that it didn't show up on the store, even though it had been a few hours. So yeah, the launch did not go good, so boo, Saints Row. You screwed that one up. Also, there was, I heard too that there was an update about 3 months ago for Forza 5, and it was kind of like a rally open world type of environment, and you had, so if you know anything about rally, you actually have a driver that helps you with corners and kind of tells you what to expect and anticipate, and that's why you always see 2 people in a rally car. But instead, your driver, your helper, your coordinator, is actually in a helicopter with this big mother hubbing spotlight and shining that crap all over the place and distracting you while you're driving, trying to do time trials and competitions and that kind of thing. And then another issue, and was really loud. It's really loud in the game compared to everything else. One guy said he couldn't even hear his car with the RPMs of the engine so that he'd know how to shift, because he likes to play in manual, and I thought that was hilarious. It's like, wow, you can't even hear well enough to know when you're shifting. And another problem is the, we know that we can blow through billboards in Forza, and the billboards with this DLC, you can go through them, but they don't break. And that's just a simple bug that would be fairly easy to fix compared to other bugs out there, and it's been 3 months and they still haven't fixed it. And it's like, man, that's kind of a bummer DLC. Everything else plays okay, but those 2 things are just a really big blotch. And they know about this. They know about this issue, and they still haven't fixed it. People have been complaining for a while. Some people are saying don't even buy the DLC, just wait until they actually fix it, so that all aspects of the game are actually enjoyable in this DLC. What a bummer. And Forza is supposed to be like some of the top-notch game out there that you can get, every year. And man, even them are starting to go downhill. That really sucks. Another DLC as well is the DLC for Callisto Protocol. So, listening to people chat about that is that Callisto Protocol is pretty short. They give you weapons toward the end, so you don't even really get to enjoy them that much. You, of course, get skins. Don't need those. Got enough of that. And then there's not even, and it's still kind of buggy and glitchy, and there's some performance and frame rate issues. And then on top of that, you don't even really get to see what happens with the supporting character that you save at the end of the original game. So if you guys haven't played, you get to save a supporting character, and they get to go off and get off the base and get off Callisto and whatever, and you stay behind to like hold them back and whatever, as valorous as you are. And as they head up, basically that's kind of the end of the story for the most part. And they kind of leave it open-ended that, okay, was she able to escape? Was she able to get picked up? What happened to her? And the DLC doesn't address that. It's like, okay, what's even the point? But it doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't add anything to the character. The combat still sucks. And, yeah, what a freaking bum. So again, we have 3 examples right there. Oh, and I gotta mention Redfall as well. They had a huge patch. To fix the game. It was supposed to fix performance. It was supposed to fix, oh, you big dog. Yeah, it's okay. Go back to bed. It was a big patch to fix performance issues, to allow more enemies to respawn in the open world, to make it more challenging, better gunplay, and that kind of thing. But some of those were improved. Again, you can check out Mr. Matty Plays. He's a great channel, too, for gaming stuff. And Mr. Matty Plays is like, I tried it, and still, there's huge issues. Like, these are maybe improved slightly, but not really. Again, it doesn't fix the game. It doesn't make me want to come back. It doesn't, want to make me play anymore or co-op with anybody to try to make it more fun. Like, it basically feels like a just slightly better version of the game that is still trash. And so, yeah, we got 4 examples there where just DLC is just not hitting the flipping bar, folks. And, like with Saints Row, we basically have a game mode that you now pay for that used to be free with GTA 5. And we got kind of the example of like Tiny Tina's, where we were expecting story DLC. At least that's kind of what Callisto Protocol was, thank goodness. Or even Forza 5. But what we got instead was just kind of arena horde-like, just repeatedly grind this crap out over and over and over and over again. And that's not content, folks. We shouldn't be buying this. I understand someone's got to buy it so they can show how crappy it is, but the masses should not be buying this. And again, this is a call to action, folks. Quit blowing your money. If you're not absolutely sure, hang on to it. It's okay to wait. And if you have really any doubt at all, it's okay to wait. Do not spend your money. Do not give these companies the satisfaction of making trash, of not making really any content, and you still giving them money for it. And I'm not saying completely boycott. I'm just saying don't pre-order the game. I'm also saying don't buy it full price. Wait for the reviews to come out. Wait for people to talk about it. And even Final Fantasy 16, it didn't have a ton of pre-orders initially, but it still sold really, really well. It was the best-selling Final Fantasy ever for Square Enix. Congratulations to them. But the game still has a problem, unfortunately, because of the way the Sony platform is designed. It's got too small of a heatsink, so some people can't even finish their own freaking game. And so we gotta hold accountability. It is painful. You do have to wait. And even I gotta say, early access, that's not content. Seriously, you're gonna pay, an extra $15 or $20 so you can have early access to a game that's literally coming out otherwise in a few days. Like, you seriously cannot wait that long. You can't put that $20 or $15 to better use somewhere else. That's like buying Nike Swoosh NFT, shoes for your player in Madden. I mean, frick, folks. Nobody cares what your shoes are. I could see some content creators wanting to get it as early as possible because they're trying to be competitive, because they're trying to make money, and so the sooner they can shove it out there, woohoo, the more views they're going to get, etc., the more revenue they're going to get. I understand that as a business model. But for people like you and I, we don't need to buy this type of stuff and waste our money. And a lot of things are the way they are today. Really, all of them are the way they are today is because as a community of gamers, we've accepted them from making content this way. With the DLCs, with the games, with the NFTs, with the free-to-play joke models, the microtransactions, the skins, the lack of story and bad writing for character development and plot. I mean, if you don't want this stuff, start withholding the money. That's what I'm asking for. That's what I'm doing. And there's other people doing it too. And eventually, there's got to be some large-scale accountability. Ubisoft is starting to feel that. Good. Let's get the others in there. Square Enix was worried about a lack of pre-orders. Good. Let's keep squeezing and tightening the bolts down. EA's got to be next. And Activision Blizzard and BioWare and Arcane. I mean, let's get it going. And again, I'm not calling for boycott. I'm just calling for withholding money from these companies that sell us trash and know that it's trash. Like Gollum. Daedalic deserves to never make another game, in my opinion, until they can completely show that it's worth it. And again, they shouldn't get taxpayer money to build the game. They should be making it and crowdfunding it and sourcing it and actually showing that the game is worth it. So yeah, maybe it shouldn't necessarily be regulated, but we should be holding companies accountable for something, because $70 a game now, that's a lot. That's a lot for me. And I make a good chunk of money, but yeah, still that's a lot. That's a lot for me. I can buy like 2 games like that a year. That's it. So anyway, that's all I got for news today, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Again, this is going to be once a week, and you can follow me on Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. I'm going to, stream them whenever I can, and then the idea is to get them up on YouTube, which you can follow me at Gaming Garbage 22. And on Gaming Garbage on YouTube, there's plenty of other playlists. So I have solo campaigns that I do. I have co-op stuff that I'm doing too. My wife and I are going to be doing a showing It Takes Two and talking about how the thing that we did in the story in the game relates to our marriage, and just to kind of work on just some cheap basic counseling, marriage advice. And again, we're not certified or nothing, but we see a lot of people. We have I'd say we have a great marriage compared to most people out there. Divorce rate is 58% among atheists, or just secular people, and then among Christians, it's still like 52%. So, religious people aren't really doing any better, and there's just a lot of broken families out there. There's a lot of people that are messed up because the family relationship or foundation wasn't good. And we just want to share how to help people that are interested in that. So we're going to be doing It Takes Two, and we did our first little trial run, and I'm chatting with my wife about how we want to do the first official stream. And then when that's done, we'll get that up on the channel. And we'll be doing the whole game, folks. And we encourage you to be able to actually play the game yourselves. you know, work on it with your spouse, work on it with your boyfriend or girlfriend. You know, if you really want to get the relationship back together and get things healthy and enjoy waking up again in the morning and not have this crazy stress that you don't need to have, boy, work on your relationships, folks. It matters more than all of your hobbies, all of your stuff. You know, but again, if you're kind of narcissistic, boy, don't get married. Please, don't have kids either. They don't need to be messed up from you needing to be first. So, anyway, stay tuned for that. So again, thanks for hanging with me and enjoying the channel. And man, hang in there, folks. Enjoy the weekend while you're here, and you know, get some stuff done, do some planning, invest in yourselves. And hey, if you need a place to hang, you can hang right here. So until next time, I'll see you on the next one.